In 1977, two very strange sounds were recorded underwater. Their frequency was very low, while their amplitude was very high. These sounds were captured by the radars of the U.S. Atmospheric Administration. Surprisingly, the exact same sounds were recorded 5,000 kilometers away by other radars. After calculations, the location of these sounds was estimated, revealing that they were generated in a very remote area of the South Pacific Ocean. At the time, these sounds were named the bloop, and research began to determine the origin of these terrifying noises. Initially, it was believed that these sounds must have come from something massive, yet nothing of the sort was found in that part of the ocean. For years, people speculated that a giant creature might live beneath this part of the ocean. However, after 2012, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, changed its stance, stating that the sounds recorded in 1977 were caused by glacial movement, i.e., the shifting of glaciers. Still, the truth behind these sounds remains unknown. Interestingly, the exact point where these sounds were recorded has now become the site of a very unique activity. This part of the South Pacific Ocean is remarkable for being surrounded by thousands of miles of open water, with no landmass in sight. This location is also known as the Oceanic Pole of Inaccessibility, or Point Nemo. The nearest piece of land to it is approximately 2,688 kilometers away, and even that land is of no practical use since it is part of the South Pole, Antarctica. The closest populated landmass to Point Nemo is the coastal area of Baja California. In Chile, about 3,334 kilometers away, while New Zealand lies about 4,700 kilometers in the opposite direction. This extreme isolation makes Point Nemo the most remote and desolate place on Earth. In fact, it is so remote that the closest humans to it are not on Earth, but in the International Space Station, ISS, orbiting approximately 400 kilometers above. Astronauts on the ISS pass over Point Nemo once or sometimes twice a day, making them its nearest inhabitants. Despite being cut off from the world, Point Nemo is far from useless. It plays a significant role in various scientific and environmental research efforts due to its unique geographic and ecological characteristics. Beneath this part of the ocean lies humanity's discarded inventions, remnants of once highly funded projects. Yet, Point Nemo serves as a graveyard for broken satellites, spacecraft, and rocket debris. This raises several questions. Where were satellites disposed of before Point Nemo's discovery? Why do satellites need to be deorbited at all? And, most intriguingly, how are satellites precisely guided to fall at Point Nemo? Welcome once again to the Untold Mysteries videos. Viewers, Point Nemo lies in the South Pacific Ocean, spanning an incredible 22 million square kilometers. To put this vastness into perspective, it is large enough to fit the entire country of Russia, the world's biggest nation, with enough room left to accommodate 5 countries the size of Egypt. Yet, despite its massive area, Point Nemo has no human population, not on the surface and, surprisingly, not even underwater. Even in the ocean depths, few sea creatures can survive in this area due to extreme isolation, lack of nutrients, and challenging environmental conditions. It's a place where life, human or marine, struggles to exist. This unique and desolate expanse is why Point Nemo was chosen as the final resting place for decommissioned space equipment. Its remoteness minimizes risks to human life and ecosystems, making it an ideal target for controlled re-entry. Researchers believe that the conditions at Point Nemo are extremely challenging, making it difficult for marine life to survive. Located in a very remote and deep area of the South Pacific Ocean, the water here is cold and nutrients are almost non-existent. This scarcity of nutrients is attributed to the circular ocean currents in the region. These strong currents trap water in a swirling motion, preventing the inflow of nutrient-rich water from other parts of the Pacific Ocean. As a result, this nutrient deficiency makes it nearly impossible for microscopic organisms like plankton, which form the base of the food chain, to thrive. The ocean's depth at Point Nemo is around 3,700 meters, approximately 12,100 feet, a depth where sunlight cannot penetrate. Without sunlight, photosynthesis is impossible, further reducing the chances of a thriving ecosystem. If any life does exist here, it would likely consist of deep-sea organisms, such as certain species of agua bioluminescent fish, and other extremophils capable of surviving under such harsh conditions. These organisms are uniquely adapted to the high pressure, cold temperatures, and lack of sunlight that characterize the deep sea. However, due to its isolation and nutrient scarcity, the biodiversity at Point Nemo remains minimal compared to other parts of the ocean. Point Nemo was first discovered by a Canadian engineer using complex mathematical calculations. The location is so remote that even the engineer who identified it has never visited the site. It wasn't until 2001, 9 years after its discovery, that Point Nemo was used for the first time as a spacecraft graveyard. The Russian Space Agency chose it as the target for deorbiting the Mir space station, which had been operational for 15 years but was no longer viable for extended missions. On March 23, 2001, the Mir station was decommissioned and deliberately guided out of Earth's orbit to crash into the waters at Point Nemo. Point Nemo is located in international waters, meaning it is not owned or controlled by any single country. This makes it a convenient site for space agencies worldwide to deorbit and dispose of their defunct spacecraft without needing permission from any government. After the Russian Space Agency's successful use of Point Nemo for Mir, other space agencies recognize the location's suitability for spacecraft disposal. Today, Point Nemo is a designated Yanmar spacecraft dumping ground, used to safely decommission satellites, space stations, and other orbital debris in a controlled manner. Its isolation ensures minimal environmental impact and eliminates risks to human life. Over the past 23 years, the Nick graveyard at Point Nemo has steadily expanded, and today the debris of more than 260 spacecraft rests beneath its waters. Soon, even the International Space Station, ISS, is set to join this underwater graveyard. According to NASA, the ISS's operational life is expected to end by 2030, after which it will be decommissioned and deliberately guided to crash at Point Nemo. Satellites and spacecraft are meticulously engineered with great precision and at enormous costs, often running into millions of dollars. However, they are not built to last forever. Just like consumer products have an expiration date, every object in space also has a sacred mission lifespan. Once this lifespan is over, it becomes crucial to voluntarily deorbit these objects to avoid potential hazards. If not properly deorbited, an expired satellite or spacecraft could lose control, falling unpredictably out of orbit and posing significant risk to life and property on Earth. By ensuring a controlled crash at a remote location like Point Nemo, space agencies minimize these dangers and protect both the planet and the integrity of Earth's orbit. In 1978, the Soviet satellite Cosmos 954 experienced a malfunction and lost contact with its base station. Initially, the satellite remained in orbit, but eventually began an uncontrolled descent towards Earth. The greatest concern wasn't just the loss of control, it was the nuclear reactor aboard the satellite, which powered its systems. As feared, Cosmos 954 re-entered Earth's atmosphere in an uncontrolled manner. While the satellite itself burned up in the atmosphere, its radioactive material scattered across a vast area of key northern Canada, creating a significant environmental hazard. In response, authorities launched a massive cleanup operation called Operation Morning Light. which was one of the largest missions of its kind, aimed solely at locating and safely removing the radioactive debris. Fortunately, there were no casualties, but the incident starkly highlighted the dangers of using nuclear-powered satellites. Another significant incident occurred in 1997, when Lottie Williams, a resident of Oklahoma, was walking in a park. Suddenly, a small object struck her shoulder. Upon investigation, it turned out to be a fragment of a Delta II rocket that had broken apart miles above the Earth during atmospheric re-entry. While Lottie was unharmed, the event drew widespread attention to the risks posed by falling space debris. Such incidents underscored the importance of ensuring the controlled disposal of decommissioned satellites and space objects. Today, most spacecraft are intentionally guided to re-enter Earth's atmosphere over remote oceanic regions, such as Point Nemo, to minimize the risk of harm to humans and the environment. This practice has become a critical part of satellite mission planning. Before the discovery of Point Nemo, decommissioned satellites and spacecraft were often guided to crash in the Pacific Ocean or remote terrestrial areas. The process of deorbiting a satellite or spacecraft involves careful engineering and precise calculations. Using onboard thrusters. Engineers first maneuver the object out of its orbit. Even after leaving orbit, the object continues to revolve around Earth for several months, gradually moving closer due to gravitational pull. To ensure the object crashes at a safe location, such as Point Nemo, thrusters are reactivated at specific times, positions, and orientations to adjust its trajectory. These calculations are meticulously planned to account for orbital decay and the Earth's rotation. In space, there is no air, pressure, or friction, allowing satellites to maintain their orbits for months or even years without power. Most satellites travel at incredible speeds of around 15,000 kilometers per hour. When they re-enter Earth's atmosphere at these speeds, friction with air causes their temperature to soar to 3,000 degrees Celsius. This intense heat turns the object into a fireball, vaporizing most of its materials. However, in some cases, certain debris can survive and reach the Earth's surface. If such debris were to fall over populated areas, it could cause significant damage. This is why deorbited spacecraft are targeted towards uninhabited regions, like Point Nemo, which spans millions of square kilometers of open ocean. This reduces the risk of harm to humans and property, ensuring safety during the controlled disposal of space objects. By utilizing a location like Point Nemo, space agencies mitigate the potential hazards of space debris re-entry while minimizing the environmental impact. When it comes to the name Nemo, it derives from the Latin word meaning no one, a fitting title for a place where neither humans nor significant marine life exist. Its location is so isolated that even ships avoid this area. The lack of shipping traffic is primarily due to the logistical challenges of providing assistance in case of emergencies. If someone were to get stranded at Point Nemo, it would take a rescue ship 2 weeks to arrive. Helicopters capable of traveling the 3,000-kilometer distance to Point Nemo without refueling are extremely rare. Only a handful exist globally, such as the Sikorsky S-92, the Augusta-Westland AW-101, and the Lockheed Martin Vi H-71. Even these helicopters face limitations, as they might not have enough fuel for a round trip without mid-air refueling, which adds another layer of complexity to rescue operations. Exploring Point Nemo and conducting underwater research in this area remains a dream for the scientific community. It's possible that in the future, advancements in technology will enable researchers to investigate this isolated region and potentially uncover the mysteries behind the 1977 sounds famously called the bloop. These mysterious underwater noises, recorded decades ago, remain an unsolved enigma. Thank you for watching this segment of The Untold Mysteries. Don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. We deeply appreciate your love and support. See you in the next exciting episode.